Welcome back, everybody, to the grand finale of Hearthstone Grandmasters Season 2. It is the last match for the last region, but we always save the best for last. As coming up next, we have two players who are familiar faces by now in the Hearthstone competitive circuit. Purple from Tempo Storm versus bloodyface from Lazarus Gaming. Canada versus the USA. Two players looking for another appearance at a year-end international event. bloodyface looking for a back-to-back appearance after appearing in the top 8 this year at the World Championships in Taiwan, potentially BlizzCon 2019. And Purple, the odd man indeed, 2015 World Championship, 2017 World Championship in Amsterdam. Can he make it to BlizzCon 2019?
Oh, is that how it works? Purple just takes a year off every other year. Okay, I didn't understand that before. That makes perfect sense. Actually, I tell you what else makes perfect sense is the point Abar made going into this, where if it wasn't for Saiyans' frankly absurd year last year, then it's very possible that we'd be talking about bloodyface as like being the Americas region player in terms of the performance that he put in last year over multiple season championships. So I'm very excited to see him again back one match away from back-to-back climactic season-ending, year-ending finale championship events.
It's going to be a good time. While we take a little bit of breathers so that bloodyface can relax after his previous series that was against Nalgidan. Let's go ahead and recap how we got to this point today. We started off on Championship Sunday with Asia Pacific, where a few familiar faces and a new challenger rose up. We had Tom 60229 be able to take the Pacific Championship and book his third appearance to a year-end global event. And that ends up becoming a new record in Hearthstone. But he couldn't be joined by Purple, who also made the 2015, 2017, 2019. Tom made it to the year before Purple's first in 2014, is when I had the pleasure of being able to meet him for the first time and consequently think, wait, are you me? We had the Spider-Man
pointing me.
Me and Tom were pointing at each other like, wait!
Just someone Photoshop some colorful hair onto that Spider-Man meme and just send it to us. Thank you very much. Get on that as soon as possible. But my memory is horrible because I just didn't even remember that happening. We were having this conversation this morning.
Yes.
We were like, wait, Tom's done it twice? And then I had to look up pictures of it happening in 2014. I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. Look at how young and adorable he is in these pictures. But yeah, Tom has been around for time up until this point, and he's able to make it back again. But there is a first-time appearance for the player from Europe, something that I am personally delighted to see. Perhaps not quite as delighted as Dan made it sound like earlier in the day, but Casey picking up the win.
Even more. Sato was at full mast. Hunter Race versus Casey. Could we not just choose them both? I think it'd be great. I mean, Europe has worked their butts off this week, and I think, or specifically this season, and quite frankly, since the dawn of competitive history. Absolutely stacked bracket can justify any of those names. Hunter Ace, a second place finish, adds to his impressive legacy. But this year, at least for the second half of the year, he's going to have to forfeit that title to someone else.
Yeah, and one more spot to fill, one more blank to fill in here. And the Americas champion is going to come down to Purple and bloodyface. bloodyface getting off to a quick start in his match against Nalgidan, but then having a little bit of trouble with his Druid. Very close game against Nalgidan's Hunter that could have kept the series alive, which I do have some questions about whether could have gone the other way with a few different decisions, and we'll have to look back on that one later for me to be sure. But Purple on the other side didn't get to see too much of his match. How did that go leading one into this?
Well, it was pretty one-sided for Purple once he was able to get that early game lead in a couple of those games. He did win 3-1, but game 3 was what was the big defining moment of that Shaman mirror back and forth.
Now that I did see, yes.
Pretty chaotic back and forth. I think the most interesting point for me was that Purple's Warlock is repeatedly being banned despite it being winless this weekend. The 2 games that the Zoo Warlock has played, it's lost both of them, and the 2 other series it was appeared in, it got banned. So Purple, you know, once again, having an opportunity to have this Warlock shine, and perhaps bloodyface feeling a lot more confident against Purple's lineup than Eddie, because if you look at it, outside of Resurrect Priest, bloodyface has the same other classes across the board as Eddie does. And Eddie lost to Purple while banning the Warlock, so this time, let's see if bloodyface has a different strategy, and he does. He's going to protect the Priest and ban the Shaman.
Yeah, it certainly makes some sense to me. I imagine that Resurrect Priest on Eddie's side does give him a lot of different strategies in the Protect and Ban phase, and because it is such a slow deck, it is quite polarized in the way that it fights matchups against other decks, so I think he probably does have to do some slightly different looking things to get the maximum out of his matchup, where these are two slightly more normal looking lineups. There is that Zoo, as you were mentioning, but Zoo has been a very successful bring to these playoffs in across all regions. Silvername making it all the way to the semi-finals. Tom 60229, of course, qualifying for BlizzCon out of the APAC region, and now Purple here, one match away from doing the same. All of them, the Zoo players in these playoffs.
Yep, I think the X factor once again will be the Druid decks and how they will handle things like the Hunter, the Priest, the Shaman, and the Zoo Warlock. We'll talk a little bit more about it as we get there, but first, let's start things off the way it began. Well, the way it began starting from week 2. Week number 1 was a Reno Mage Fest, if everyone remembers back when Luna's Pocket Galaxy. That's right, the season began with the 5-mana Luna's Pocket Galaxy, the 3-mana Conjurer's Calling, and the 2-mana Extra Arms, etc. And ever since week 2, we started seeing Priest dominance. It's only fitting that we wrap up the broadcast starting with the Priest Mirror.
Yeah, it has very much been the story leading up until this point throughout most of the weeks, and now even into playoffs, even with some of the most powerful cards in Hearthstone history rotating back into the game. A lot of them are kind of mid-game and late-game tools, and mid-game and late-game power tools are not really what pays the bills when it comes to beating Priest. So Priest, although it remains unchanged, has maintained a lot of its power level in the new metagame.
That's right. Largely because Divine Spirit Inner Fire is still hard to deal with when a lot of classes lack that hard removal, or at least are refusing to put it into their decks because they lose too many percentages against other classes. And now bloodyface has to deal with that early game tempo advantage that Priest has.
Yeah, snap Circle of Healing from Purple on that turn as well, which I love to see. It's a point I've made a million times, and it's a point that Purple is certainly good enough to recognize. That a circle, you can't just wait for it to get better in the Priest Mirror. If it is playable on any given turn, that might just be as good as it ever gets in the matchups. You should just get some use out of it. Right there, that was a pretty good one, to be fair. Buffing the Light Warden and making the 2/6 injured Tolvir.
Yep.
Means that even the expected terror turn of the opponent of buff, so Beaming Psychic or Power Shield, plus an Inner Fire, which is a play that almost always beats you when it comes out in the Priest Mirror, even that would not be good enough here to trade through this board.
Yeah, the injured Tolvir is often what makes or breaks those early game boards from my experience.
Yep.
And I think this early game dominance for Purple is going to start snowballing very quickly if bloodyface cannot answer that. And it's looking likely. bloodyface has things to do, but they are minor dents onto this board state here at best. bloodyface has 1 and 2 attack minions up against a light warden that's getting way out of control.
Yes. Consider.
Purple's in pretty high spirits, and he should be, given that this is his 2nd finals appearance. The only thing that's been more consistent in Hunter Race into the playoffs has actually been Purple. He lost to PNC 0-3 in the grand finals. So being able to grab this first win would already be an improvement onto last season.
Consider.
And I do want to shout out Purple for being a very confident man, which is something that I admire. I was watching his stream one evening, and someone came into the chat and was just doing the, oh, you know, how do you, how can you consider yourself a professional Hearthstone player when there's like no skill involved in the game or whatever? And
oh boy.
And Purple replies.
Oh boy.
Purple replies something along the line of, well, I think if you look at the league tables, the players that have played the worst are down at the bottom of the league. And I think personally, I've played as good as anyone not called Hunter Ace, and I made the finals of the playoffs last season, and will probably do it again this season. End quote. That was several weeks ago, and now here he is. Woo! It's not cocky if you can back it up.
And crushing it. He's presenting lethal next turn. And bloodyface has no way to counterplay this right now. No silence, no removal. That's game 1. Purple 2 games away from a date with Destiny, as he is Very much in high spirits.
High spirits indeed, and not the kind of spirit that you see in the background of Bloodyface's camera there. I heard you calling out earlier the purple shoulder laugh, which I am also a huge fan of. It's a very, very infectious sight just to see that full shoulder rotation as he's enjoying himself, having a good time. I do find purple immensely entertaining, and I do kind of echo Casey's sentiments. So I really do hope. I think it'd be a very fitting addition to the BlizzCon roster, but Bloodyface absolutely would as well.
Yeah, he's a very animated person, a full body experience, true 4D Hearthstone entertainment. Because he's like popping out of your screen at that point, right? You know, visibly trying to control his laughter, but can't. Going to game number 2 with the Priest Mirror gone. Again, our questions turn to what will happen with these Druid decks. I feel like Zoo Warlock is super good against Druid. Again, we might not see that matchup right now, but I want to point out one statistic that Abar brought up is that we've had 10 Zoo Warlock versus Quest Druid games. Do you know the
I know, yes,
okay.
yeah.
We've had 10 games, which is a fair enough small sample size to start to draw like X ratio conclusions. It went 10-0 against it, which is absolutely absurd. You would expect Quest Druid to maybe win one game, right?
Yep.
To call it 9-1 would feel like you're highly exaggerating on broadcast, but to say 10-0,
yep.
That is damning evidence.
Actually, straight up 100% win rate in GM. And I would have played along. I would have played ignorant for you if you wanted to go down that line, if you wanted to ask me the question. So what do you think the win rate is? Oh, I don't know, probably like 65%. No, it's 100%! Shocked face emoji. We could have done it. It would have worked. It would have been fine.
I don't even think I need to cast anymore. I feel like you're a one-man man.
Looks like Zoo is going to come up against the Priest, though, as the way these deck lists are lining up. And this is a matchup that I do think it surprises me a little bit that we haven't seen more Zoo in the tournament because of this matchup. I do think that Warlock, does have some game, especially when you are playing that Plague of Flames that purple is in his deck list. We did see it be a little bit clunky for him in one of the games yesterday, but I think this is the matchup where it can really potentially shine.
Well, I do have a little bit more stats to drop on you.
Okay.
Zoo versus Priest.
Oh, okay.
Familiar with their matchup.
I am not familiar with this matchup.
So I'll give you a hint, and in true Hearthstone fashion, there's a 50% chance to get this answer correct.
Okay.
So one side of this matchup is an underdog at 5 wins, and the other side is 10 losses. Who's favored at a 2-to-1 ratio? Is it Zoo Warlock or is it Priest? One side is 67%, the other's 33%.
Now that you mention it, I remember that I do remember this statistic, but we'll play along as specified before. Obviously, Zoo has the favored win rate in this matchup, Dan. Surely.
No, it's actually the combo.
What?
Won 10-5.
So surprised.
I'm not. Largely because I feel like there's been a couple of things. One, Zoo Warlock has had a lot of different builds. I don't even know if the current variant that Purple's playing is anywhere close to being the ideal version. Because, in my opinion, I feel like Zoo Warlock really does need burst finishers like Leroy Jenkins, and Purple isn't. But of course, he is teching it to beat things like Priest with Plague of Flames. So we're still debating that.
Right.
As you can see, like, Zoo's supposed to win the board, and it's just not right now.
Yes.
And the second thing is that I do feel like Zoo Warlock is also surprisingly very difficult to play. It might seem like a simple deck on the surface, but the more you tap into it, the more you realize that there's a lot of decisions that you can mess up in this game, which are fairly punishing if you don't get that early game board presence.
Absolutely agree. Zoo never has and never will be an easy deck to play. I think the closest it got to it was the Silverware Golem version of the deck that I think stripped away a lot of the harder decision points. But I think most variations of the deck, and it is one of the most enduring decks in Hearthstone history, have been incredibly tough to play properly. I mean, there's a difference between a skill floor and playing a deck optimally, right? I think Zoo has a very high skill floor in that you can play it badly and still win a lot of games. But to play at this level, at Grandmaster level, at Purple versus Bloodyface, America's Finals, BlizzCon spot on the line level, it's an incredibly difficult deck to perfect.
Yep. It's echoed it by players throughout the years, beginning with our Lord and Savior and Creator of the universe, Mr. Reynad himself, all the way down to even Viper, bringing the Zoo Warlock to the World Championship this past year, putting on the most memorable finals we've had to date. And even declaring right after, man, Zoo Warlock is hard. P.S. Rafam does suck. Not his words exactly. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but I'll let you draw the conclusions.
Oh, was I ever a vindicated man?
Well, it seems like Purple's going to be able to wrestle away control. That evil recruiter being able to summon the 5/5 demon being a power play. That Sea Giant coming into hand. Purple leaning in. That's a big boy draw here for Purple. Sea Giant flexing a little bit. Bloodyface needs this to hit a nice minion.
There's almost no way back onto this board now from Bloodyface. That 8/8 is going to dominate everything he plays for a number of turns from this position.
Oh my. The Mecharoo is also a pretty good pickup. Doesn't fill out the curve. And also, you know, just another minion to stick for things like Plague of Flames. Also a Grim Rally buff target.
I promise you that Purple is deeply offended by the prospect of trading into this 3/1 this turn.
Yeah, very much so.
All right. I was expecting he might be even more offended of trading it into the Reborn minion, but apparently not.
I was like, well, you know, Bloodyface probably really wants a taunt minion to, like, you know, withstand the board presence. Turns out the Light Warden just had taunt the entire time.
Yep. There is a very good chance that every minion he plays will have taunt for the rest of the game, but it just will not matter. I think Purple is absolutely doing the responsible thing. No look away warnings there. I know that those trades may have looked illegal, but they are absolutely responsible in this situation.
Just imagine Golden says, you cannot do that. When you have a giant, you just have to go face.
Yep.
Stops you. Bloodyface with the trade, he buffed his other Psychopomp because he anticipated trading the 3/1 into that 5/5 minion anyways, but now we get to that point where how does Bloodyface distribute this last bit of health here from the beaming sidekick?
Sure.
Is it the same Psychopomp? Does he just want Light Warden so that it forces Purple to attack with the 8 attack again?
Personally, I'm seeing it more likely to be on the Light Warden. That way the Vulture and the Mecharoo don't take care of your Light Warden on board, and as you say, you're kind of encouraging that 8 attack to go into it again.
Scarabag with Grim Rally.
Kobold Lackey is huge. You do also play around some Lackey effects by buffing up the health on the Light Warden as well, but I think it was a very marginal call. And as I mentioned earlier, Bloodyface mentions in his interview that he really prides himself in those situations of just considering every possible scenario. So if he did that and he came out to a net average that was better to put the health on the 3/3, then fair enough.
You have best.
Game 2. Over to Purple, 1 game away from being able to book a ticket to the global finals for his 3rd World Championship level appearance. And it seems like Purple is going to be unstoppable at this point. I guess it might be only fitting if he 3-0s Bloodyface after getting 0-3'd right back by PNC in Season 1.
Yeah, I'm starting to get deja vu on so many levels here, not only because we might have another 3-0 in a final, which echoes what happened last season in Americas, but then it ends up with Purple at a World Championship again, which then is just another level of deja vu. And then also, this looks like exactly the same series that we saw in Europe a couple of hours ago of Casey versus Hunter Ace, where Hunter Ace just got completely steamrolled and didn't really have much to say about the proceedings. And you could see how emotional Hunter Ace was towards the end, where he just felt like, you know, Hunter Ace just wants a chance to play some Hearthstone, and then he will win a lot of games. And I probably felt that he did not have much of a chance in that series. And it's looking like a really similar story up until this point for Bloodyface.
Yeah, calling the Europe Grand Finals a series is fairly generous.
Yeah.
Sort of was a demonstration of how decks work,
yes,
but mainly on Casey's side.
Yes.
And I think that could be what ends up becoming the case here. But, you know, I got to say the Zoo Warlock, 2 things. First, getting a crucial victory. The first victory for that Zoo Warlock for Purple this weekend.
Hey!
So maybe worth banning it moving forward, but obviously this is the last series. Second thing, he didn't even need Plague of Flames. He just crushed it anyways.
Just beat him up.
Now Purple, so excited, so close that it feels like he can taste the victory. Bloodyface has to go 3-0 against Druid. Purple's Quest Druid does have Kun the Forgotten King. Very straightforward mid-range package, lots of late-game punch too.
But this is a very, very lean deck in comparison to what bloodyface is running. If you look at bloodyface's version of Druid, it looks like he's going to queue his Hunter up first and foremost, but if you compare the Druid decks, bloodyface has a Geppetto in there, a Chef Nomi in there, which Purple has neither of those things. He is just playing that Feoris and the Scenarios at the top end alongside the Kun, which is pretty much a given at this point. So because he has that leaner deck list, he does have slightly more removal options and early game options available to him, which might be what he needs to be able to fight back against this Hunter. And crucially, 2 copies of Hidden Oasis to bloodyface's 1, which can have a big difference in this matchup as well.
That's right. Pretty interesting curve here, especially from bloodyface that has Zephyrus to help tie things nicely together. The Scavenger Hyena and Animal Companion work really nicely together. Zephyrus can even help summon more Animal Companions, perhaps even ramp, but I feel like you want to take advantage of the fact that Druid's relatively passive early on.
Yep. Purple chooses to go Quest on 1 here into Crystal Merchant Innovate, as opposed to Innovate, Crystal Merchant, Quest on 2, which are 2 very similar ways to play out this same hand. Interesting. Sure, he has thought about this and considers that this way is better, but having that 1/4 body on board a turn earlier can certainly give him some pretty powerful options. And now in response to the Scavenging Hyena, he chooses to throw out a hero power instead of dropping down that Crystal Merchant.
Now Zephyrus, well, gonna offer a slew of 3 drops. The main 3 is Brightwing, Animal Companion, and Wild Growth. I do like the Animal Companion pickup, just want to be able to keep putting on pressure. And Purple will shut down this Hyena at the cost of 4 life. But he does get 2 ticks on the quest.
Yup, and he is going to take a beating in the meantime to the rest of the curve. This Zephyrus on board, this Animal Companion coming out. Let's get the Leok though, which is immediate damage, but nowhere near as much as the Huffer would be, and far less frustrating to deal with than the Misha would be in the situation as well. We saw a wince from Purple at the first Animal Companion. We might just see it again at the second one.
Right, it was the Animal Companion that was used off the Zephyrus.
Yeah, I think weirdly enough, that's actually the Animal Companion that Purple knows he has in his hand more in that situation, even though it's randomly generated. So I do think that ends up being the right one to use.
So Purple, obviously, praying for some kind of answer. His quest isn't done, so I don't even know what he needs specifically outside of Oasis Surger or Starfall to help bail him out, and he doesn't even finish the quest that way.
Swipe does a lot here, because he gets the 1/4 on board. I think bloodyface recognizing that trading here doesn't really improve his board against Swipe, so he might as well just let it happen and go face.
Yeah, the Zephyrus being played on 2, by the way, is a really powerful tool against decks that take it slow.
Yep.
Specifically against Druid too, ends up being super good. Purple having to take desperate measures in order to survive.
Whiff turn. Oh, I was about to say the first weak turn from bloodyface, and that was going to be what Purple needed to capitalize on, and then that Houndmaster comes flying off the top into bloodyface's welcoming arms. Suddenly, Dan, it looks like we do have a series on our hands after all.
Yep. If Purple goes for a Nourish and Nubisat Defender play, he is going to get Kill Command.
What else are you going to do? Heal for 12, pass? That doesn't sound too exciting.
In his mind, he might be barely alive by 1, but there's a couple of ways to skin this cat. Bloodyface is going to take game number 3. Very quick back and forth, but it's the window of opportunity that Druid tries to give you. You only have a couple of turns. Purple screaming how fun this game was.
Fair to say Purple now less happy than We saw him after the last 2 games that he picked up quick victories in. Bloodyface has remained fairly consistent throughout, but this man right here really wants this World Championship appearance, and you can see it in his reactions. Apologies to any lip readers out there in the audience.
Or you're welcome.
Either way.
Purple, he's been getting big wins every year too, even though people might not be seeing it. For example, people might be asking what Purple's big achievement was in 2018, and it was his WHG performance in China.
Yep.
Where he was able to land a big win and a lot of money.
Yep.
So Purple wasn't just taking the year off. I think some people might jokingly say or remark. The guy is one of the winningest players in America's Hearthstone history, and maybe just in the world in general. And he's just, he represents a lot of the favorite content creators of people out there, right? Purple, very good friends with Firebat. Oftentimes when Firebat decided to win the 2014 World Championship, one of the main reasons that he will tell you why is because people like Purple were coaching him back when he was doing the data and analytical side of things of Hearthstone.
Yes.
He's also friends with Zalay and Ike and Gallon and all of them. Just really well connected even to the Europeans because he used to compete on the French team, Gamers Origin.
Yep.
So he's got a lot of network. So if you're a fan of some of the streamers out there in Hearthstone, most likely you're also a fan of Purple.
Yeah, and I think the reason why he does sometimes disappear from competitive for just a few months at a time, certainly not a year at a time, is that he really enjoys that content creation side of things. Like, he loves being like a deck doctor and building meme decks and just beating people with meme decks anyway. Like, just building the worst deck imaginable and farming people with it because he's that good at the game. Like, that's something that he really enjoys doing and has attested himself to really enjoy doing. But when that competitive drive hits him, I think you can see quite clearly from the reactions in this series that this means a lot to Purple.
Both for better or for worse, I suppose.
Yep.
The highs are very high, but the lows, as you can tell, they hit real low.
Druid Mirror, and I spent most of that last game setting this one up because Bloodyface has a significant advantage in the greed department in this deck, which means Purple is going to have to be the aggressor here. If it goes hyper late, if both players empty their decks and fight resource for resource, it is most likely that Bloodyface is going to come out with the advantage. So Purple is going to have to set up aggressive, fight for tempo, push his opponent into awkward positions where they can't just, for example, play Chef Nomi onto the board and run away with the game.
Well, Bloodyface, with that early nourish, it'll be a nice way to finish off his quest. Can Purple capitalize? Nourish often ends up becoming one of the defining cards if you're not able to present threats. Purple picks up Innervate.
Nothing to do with it right now, though. No Crystal Merchant to play out on 2 to take advantage of that. He's going to get the bad news in one more turn that his opponent is going to have the card draw advantage on him with both Crystal Merchant and then eventually Nourish in hand. And I think we'll see, yes, indeed, the reaction to the Crystal Merchant, if you guys are in any doubt how much Purple's caring about this. Although, honestly, this is about how he reacts to the average game on ladder, so I guess that point doesn't even really stand.
It's true. This matchup is really important, too. For Purple, the Druid Mirror is something that we're talking about. How can the player's Druid decks escape? And Bloodyface drawing extra cards over Purple. It's bad news for our boy in blue here. Another worthy expedition. Finding the same exact cards as before? No, he had Tending Torrent as an option. It was Tending Torrent, Starfall, and Mark of Nature. And I think against a deck like Bloodyface, it's even scarier when they have more card draw because of the Chef Nomi threat.
Yep. Yeah, back in the days when this deck first came around and basically everyone was playing Nomi in their deck, like the Druid Mirror really was just a race to empty your deck of cards. And then if you could start playing Chef Nomis before your opponent could start doing anything about it. Like, yeah, okay, they set up some games sometimes with like Zephyrus Frostnova situations, but even then, like if you got there quick enough over the opponent, it really made too big a difference. Bloodyface paying attention to his hand size with the intentions of a Nourish in the coming turns. Just making sure he spends cards where possible, even if he's not nourishing immediately next turn. His hand size is going to become a problem over the next turn or two if he just keeps drawing cards with this Crystal Merchant.
Speaking of, Crystal Merchant finally coming in, but very late to the party.
Yep.
Purple hoping the 6s can contest the board along with the Nubisat Defender, try to grab tempo. bloodyface does not have the luxury of playing the Nourish the way he would want to, but he does have the double Nubisat Defender. But he is holding 9 cards.
Could choose to burn one. He could choose to burn a card with the Nourish right now. That is a very real play sometimes with this deck.
Yes.
What to do?
He would draw 2, burn 1, and then be able to dump these 2 Anubisat Defenders from his hand if he really wanted to go down that line.
Right. I think if he had the freedom to do that without worrying about the board state, I think it'd be much better.
Yep.
If there wasn't a 6/6 and a 3/5 staring at him, of course.
Very fair. So back in the same spot now. The Innovate pickup is enormous for bloodyface. That frees up the space in the hand. That allows the Nourish to get ripped. That pulls out the reaction from purple, and that reaction is only going to get worse as Anubisat Defender number 1 and Anubisat Defender number 2 hits the board.
He is floating 4 manas, but getting to 10 next turn is going to be the real key.
Yep.
Purple with his own form of card draw here. He has Wrath and he has Starfall.
Purple does not, does not play a Mind Control tech in his deck, which is a crucial comeback mechanism in situations like this. Can also be relevant in the hyper late game scenarios, and we're a little bit away from that, but just to set it up, Chef Nomi's going to come down. Purple's going to have to try and set up some kind of like Zephyrus Frost Nova win condition for himself while his opponent is fatiguing. If you have Mind Control tech to go into that as well, and you can get a 6/6 on your side of the board, that can really change the clock. But Purple's concerns are a lot more immediate than bloodyface getting to the bottom of his deck and playing Chef Nomi for now.
Flip for 1 mana. Honestly, Cenarius for 1 mana is pretty sick too. How about 2?
Especially when you can follow it up with a Cenarius for 9 mana on the following turn, or even a Cenarius for 4. Take your pick. The flute does reset, as you see there. It goes back to 4 as soon as it transforms, so it's actually a pretty big whiff off the Geppetto. Essentially just drew a card, didn't really have an effect on it at all. There is a giant bomb chain of Cenariuses in Purple's future here. And bloodyface is going to push all the way in.
Yep, with this hidden Oasis, it won't activate the flute, and then he can play Coon, then he can play Cenarius, and then he can win.
3 simple steps to victory. Oh, he's going to rip the Nourish here instead. Okay.
I guess with Chef Nomi in hand, recognizes he can put out also a ton of stats to this Oasis Surger and still get closer to the backup win condition. Yeah. In the event Purple has some miraculous outcome of Zephyr's Clear.
Yeah, I do like this. Makes a lot of sense. 15 cards remaining in Purple's deck. Incredibly unlikely he can do anything about it. And I said we might have a series on our hands. Now we certainly have a series on our hands.
This one's tough. The last deck remaining was the first deck that Purple's able to beat. And what feels like under half an hour so far in this series has been super quick back and forth. It might be just beginning on the delay for all of you at home watching on Twitch.
Hello,
we're now in game number 5, where the winner of this best of 1, this last game here, goes to the global finals, and it is a Druid versus a Priest. And that seems really tough. We talked about the Druid decks on both sides, right?
We did, and I think you start to see now it becomes apparent why Purple has been reacting so viscerally to these situations where he was losing with Druid. Because if that Druid mirror got through, I think that Druid mirror was the big decider. And we've kind of harped on about it. It does really seem like Druid has been picking up wins primarily in the mirror match and sometimes sneaking through against Shaman. We theorize that Shaman might have improved enough to be favored in that matchup, and maybe that's not the case. Further data required, you'll see as the meta develops. But that seems to be the 2 spots that they've been picking up their wins. Outside of that, it doesn't feel like Druid's been doing a great deal up against these Zoos and Priests, and like even the Warrior build that Casey has, which he claimed in his post-match interview is even favored against Druid as well.
Yep, I have gone 1-7 with Druid today during my breaks where I'm not casting, I'm playing and
Just
watching
a
along.
normal Sunday afternoon for Frodan.
And I just... I hate you. It's so true, though. It's I watch games, I get pumped up, I think I want to jam some Hearthstone. I lose in my break, I come back tilted, I see misplays, I go in more on his subtle, I get more upset, fans tweet at me.
Finally, we're pulling back the curtain on the Americas broadcasting controversy.
TJ's trying to settle me down.
The reason behind all these players' salty tweets is that Frodan himself is tilted at losing games on ladders. Finally, we've solved it.
Wow. Let's go into the game number 5. The winner of this, as mentioned, will get the 8th and final spot at Global Finals. We have 7 determined, 2 from each region except for Americas. Who will join PNC? The answer is after this.
And according to the statistics, while we've been going down that line, 75% of the time, the answer to that question is bloodyface. Just going off of Hearthstone Grandmasters data. This is a 75% win rate matchup for the Priest, which means Purple is right up against it. And Purple here chooses to go Crystal Merchant over Wrath in the face of a 2-3 minion, which I would consider unconventional. Purple certainly has a plan for himself here, but you saw the reaction. We honestly don't need to add anything to it. Coin Armet was terrible for Purple that turn.
Yes, I think Purple, his plan was to double Merchant up and just get the card draw going, ignore his opponent's board, let them develop, and then use comeback mechanics like Starfall to wrap it up. Oh, no. Yeah. Purple's leaning back in his chair. He's seen this dozens of times before in his own personal game. We've seen it hundreds of times in Grandmasters at this point of this season. No?
I'm very confused. Like, as soon as the power word shield came down, I started to doubt things, because personally for me, I was looking at Divine Spirit, just the inner fire, hit your opponent in the face for 14 and play a 1/14 cleric alongside that. I kind of struggle to see how the opponent interacts from that position with an unactivated quest. It's just being hit in the face a couple of turns by a 14/14, but I guess that 2 hits of 14/14 isn't directly game-ending in that spot, so it does give them a turn of wiggle room anyway. So maybe you are justified in taking an additional setup turn. Interesting spot, for sure.
But what if he went 18-18? There's no way Druid's really out-healing that.
Sure, and you sacrifice having the cleric on board just for the sake of the extra damage and the extra health on the Armet.
For the extra turn that you get.
For the clock, yeah. I think that's very justifiable as well. I think, honestly, long run, all 3 of those lines are probably absolutely fine. I'm sure bloodyface has his reasoning for this one.
Can Purple find a way out of this game? He's looking.
It's a good job that Purple is a better player than I am, because I am struggling to see it.
I think it might be a worthy expedition into a War Druid Lodi type scenario.
Sure.
Even another Crystal Merchant.
The immediate play of Loti and Poison would get checked by the Pyromancer, but certainly from Purple's perspective, he will think that gives him some game.
Okay, he finds the Nubisat Defender. Okay, there's gotta be something here.
There are things. Pyromancer pop off here with Circle of Healing draws 1,000,000 cards.
Yep.
And still, unfortunately, that 2 mana being spent really doesn't allow you to have any more of explosive a turn in terms of just getting lethal right now than you already can, because you already have the copy of Divine Spirit in your hand. So maybe it's just better to hold off on it and just go fully aggressive on this turn. I see what he's doing. He's going to go with it last. Okay, yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, this seems like the best way to do it for sure, having thought about it.
6 cards coming to the hand. Bloodyface could have the game-ending damage, potentially?
No, he has maximum...
Oh, yeah.
20, no, will have exactly 28 this turn. If he gets the Topsy-Turvy, would have been lethal. exact lethal to the point if he picked up the Topsy-Turvy there. Attack face for 2 and then flip the Armet for 8 more.
Purple out of options, needs to pick up something big.
Crucially now, bloodyface did pick up the silence off that card draw turn, which means taunts are not going to prevent him getting through. Even removal plus taunt here will struggle. That second defender, though, into the hand from purple does just about give him some options.
Yep, Worthy Expedition also could be squeezed in here if he wants to go for a Starfall instead of the Hidden Oasis. Both are pretty awkward options, but at least with the Starfall, you can kill the Ahmet as well. So you can Starfall the Ahmet, it goes down to a 2-1, then the 2-5 gets traded by the 3-3, and then the 1-3 can trade to the Ahmet. In fact, you also even draw 2 cards, which might even be better than the Worthy Expedition.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And you play your 2 Anubisat defenders and you pray. That's about the best thing I see. Purple might find a better line with the amount of options that he does have this turn, but I do not see it myself.
I think so, because the closer he gets to draw War Druid Lodi, the closer he gets to maybe even letting at least Duplicate in some capacity, or getting Zephrys. The sit back.
He prays, but he's about to get some bad news because Extra Arms kills one of the taunts, Silence kills another one of the taunts, Inner Fire, same thing, different card name. Purple is going to bite the dust here, and his dream of the third BlizzCon, or third World Championship, Global Finals, BlizzCon, whatever you want to call it, the third time Purple would have made it there. That dream is dead, but bloodyface back to back now. And I do again want to pay huge respect to the year that he had last year. It was slightly eclipsed by the absolutely ridiculous year that Just Saying had, that he rightly received a lot of the plaudits and a lot of the press for. But I think bloodyface really rose to the absolute top of the Americas region last year and is now able to follow that up in the new Hearthstone Grandmasters program here in 2019.
That's right. We have a pretty exclusive club of players who are able to join us 2 years running. And bloodyface has now entered it within the same calendar year. You know, just a few months ago in April, he was in the World Championship. He was in the top 8, and honestly, kind of crumbled a little bit at that point. He was kind of talking about some of the frustrating turns that he had, where it was like kind of troubling. It was a new metagame. Rise of Shadows had just emerged, and there was plays that were going on. Him and Language Hacker were in the back room talking about a lot of plays. And bloodyface said, you know what? I feel like I could have done even better. Top 8 was not my ceiling. It's not my cap. And I think a lot of people agree. And he has some unfinished business happening on the global stage, and he'll be joining us at BlizzCon 2019. He's on the line right now for a brief interview. bloodyface, can you hear us?
Yeah. Hey, guys.
Hey, so, you know, seems like pretty stoic all throughout, but you did it. You made it. You're through to BlizzCon. What's going through your head right now?
Oh, man. I mean, it's just so hard to process because, you know, it just feels like another Grandmaster match, or at least that's the way I try to approach it. I don't want to make myself too nervous. But, no, I mean, it feels amazing to get back-to-back Worlds appearances because, you know, a lot of people respect me and a lot of people think I'm good, but I feel like a lot of people in NA, like Muzzy and Sand, kind of overshadow me. And just people like Hunter Ace, you know, they consider them to be the best, and, you know, I want to be up there with them. So, you know, getting back-to-back Worlds certainly helps, you know, my resume, so I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, you know, I think one of the more interesting and quite impressive things, too, is that it seems like you're doing it on your own. A lot of people, they have these big, giant group think tanks. In fact, I feel like half the players in playoffs this weekend are in the same living room, like, right now.
Yes.
This very moment.
Yeah.
You're on your own. You're doing it on your own. I mean, is there more to it than that? Or is there people that we should be thanking alongside, of course, congratulating you?
Well, definitely thanks to Eddie because, you know, the 48 hours going into this week was really stressful. Like, literally, we were building decks up until 30 minutes before the deadline. And it just really helped having another person to bounce ideas off of. And he helped me with, like, some of my inclusions. Like, the Hunter deck I brought was a complete YOLO decision. Like, I hadn't played any games with it at all. Actually, I didn't play many games. Actually, half the decks I submitted, I didn't play a single game with. So it was just like very hard to figure out what to do because going into the week, I was really wanting to play like a very aggressive lineup and try and target Druid. But I knew I needed to get out of group stages, which is best of 3, so you can't really target a deck. So I kind of ended up with this half mismatch, like good decks against Druid, but like Druid can still beat me sort of thing. But yeah, just having Eddie, on the call and, just talking through things definitely helped me a lot. So it's not like I'm just doing literally everything on my own. I do talk to a few people here and there along the way, but I'm not part of like any big practice group. I have been before, and I just feel like, I'm just very opinionated, like most people are. So I don't get a lot out of it. Like sometimes the group will break a deck, and it's nice because you get to play, the new broken deck before everybody. But, most of the times I just really enjoy deck building. I like deck building, and just playing games on ladder, Try to make the testing process fun, I guess.
Got it. Makes sense to me. You said that you didn't get a lot of games in. Was that just because there was last-minute changes like you mentioned, or were you taking a break just because you needed to reset yourself mentally?
So I didn't know what Shaman to bring. I was going to bring Overload Shaman, but I was kind of worried that people were going to start bringing Warrior. So I wanted to have a good lineup against Warrior as well. And Quest Shaman is something that I thought was pretty weak before the Evolve patch. So, I just hadn't got very many reps with it. And I kind of just was like, all right, well, I know Quest Shaman's good. Everyone keeps telling me it's good. It keeps winning. Sure, we'll submit it. Priest was a no-brainer. And then the Druid deck was kind of something that me and Eddie made. I was really pushing him to cut King Feors for Nomi because I thought more people were going to be playing the Control Priest deck. I think the Control Priest deck is extremely strong, by the way, and I think it was severely Resurrect Priest. I think it's severely unrepresented, and I think you can actually tune it to beat Priest and beat most of the metagame, especially with the list that people are playing. A lot of the Druid decks only play King Feors, and there's just no way they can beat the N'Zoth packages that you see in Warrior and Priest. And I just thought the N'Zoth thing was going to be huge this week, and I thought everyone was going to be playing N'Zoth. So I tried to make my decks as greedy as possible. As you can see, my Hunter has super heavy top in, my Druid has Nomi top in with aggressive card draw. That's just kind of my philosophy, was just to go super over the top.
So I want to ask you, in that series, you were 2-0 down, obviously. How dire did you think your situation was at that point? Because we both thought that the Druid was going to be the deck that struggled to get a win from both sides. So the fact that he still had his Druid left, it didn't seem as bad for you as it might have looked at 0-2 down. Do you agree with that?
Oh, I agree. Druid is definitely the weakest deck against my lineup. But after those 2 Priest games, I was feeling well, if I queue Priest again, I just have a bad feeling that I'm gonna get wrecked. So it's let's start out with a good matchup with Hunter. Get that W. Maybe we can win the Druid mirror and then find ourselves with a favorable. But yeah, I definitely felt like my chances were very slim. I did not think I'd be going to BlizzCon after that.
So you mentioned that you were trying to treat it as another GM match. Were you successful in that? Did it feel in the middle of the game you were calm? You didn't really feel the pressure coming over you, even at 0-2 down?
No. Well, after my second loss, I felt kind of bummed because I was well, geez, I got to win 3 straight games against a pretty strong class, even if I'm favored against it. But yeah, during the match, I was pretty calm. I was pretty collected. I don't know what to say. It just kind of felt like another Grandmasters match. I'm in the comfort of my own home. I always play with the same setup. I'm not anywhere new. So I just kind of, when you psych yourself out, wanting to win more doesn't actually produce better results. And it doesn't matter how bad you want to win. All that matters is that you try to make the best decision every turn. So I just try to remind myself that and try and forget about the results and try and just focus on the decision making.
No, bloodyface, you are wrong. Every sports pundit in the history of anything has told me that a team won because they wanted it more, sure. Okay? They wanted it more, and that's the only reason.
I've been watching a lot of Major League Baseball playoffs and NFL Sundays, and the amount of times they actually say something like, he is a professional sports ball player, as their explanation of why they think that they're good. Just, I don't know, it blows my mind. Anyways, you're a professional Hearthstone player, bloodyface. Congratulations. How are you going to celebrate your win? I know there's Halloween season coming up. I know that you also were streaming a little bit. Is there any plans on how you're going to spend the next couple weeks leading into the Global Finals?
Just practice. It's crunch time. At Worlds, I lost to Hunter Ace. I was actually kind of hoping Hunter Ace would make it again because I really wanted to play against him at Worlds again because I felt like that loss I had to him last time in top 8, I could have won. I could have beaten him. Maybe we get a different timeline. But yeah, I really want redemption. I really want to practice a lot. So yeah, we'll have a night of celebration, but then it's back to practicing.
Sounds good. And
Business as usual, basically.
for sure. All right. Is there any other people you'd like to thank before we let you go here?
Yeah, just thank you to like all the supporters and all the fans, and especially my girlfriend. I know it can be tough for her when those 48 hours I'm playing nonstop Hearthstone, can't really hang out with her too much. And I appreciate everybody supporting me on Twitter, messaging me on Discord, etc. All the viewers I have on my stream, I appreciate it. You guys keep me moving forward, especially if I'm going through a rough patch. So I love you guys.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, I think you mentioned that you have like a public Discord where people can just kind of help each other improve and like toss different deck ideas. Is that true? Is that still going on?
Yeah. The public Discord's still going on. I haven't been as active in it, but I try to answer questions. I really enjoy coaching people. I enjoy like helping people get better. That's something that makes me happy. Whether I do that through like coaching sessions or whether I do that just by answering questions on Discord, it just makes me happy that I can help someone's chances. Especially going to these Masters qualifiers. Some people have started asking me questions about lineups and stuff, and why not help them?
All right, that's right. That reminds me that I have a coaching session booked with bloodyface. I just haven't.
That's right.
It yet.
Do you actually? Is that real? Wow.
I
okay,
do.
that's so cool.
It's just been very chaotic past couple weeks.
Nice.
Haven't had time, but definitely in the breaks leading up to BlizzCon, I'll hit you up for sure. Congratulations, Brian. You are the Season 2 champion of America's Grandmasters.
Yeah.
And we'll see you at BlizzCon 2019.
All right.
Congrats.
Thanks, guys.
All right, there we go. Took a little bit of yelling to get him excited, but I think he finally was on the same page where, he's like, yeah, this is not just another match. This is the playoffs. This is the championship. Oh crap, I'm going to BlizzCon, And I think that kind of realization, when you're watching them play, very calm and collected, but as the stress, unwinds, you get to see the elation of some of these players.
I do fully admire that stance from him, though, and it's why I decided to follow it up by throwing shots at mainstream sports broadcasters, because he's absolutely right. Wanting something more has no impact on it happening, right? Getting nervous, caring too much does not improve your win rate. So if you can stay as calm as he attests to be able to do, then that's fantastic. I have my doubts about whether he's just not letting on that there were a few butterflies tingling in there somewhere. But if he is able to keep it all in there, then that is honestly a fantastic benefit for him.
Absolutely. And he's kind of like what you were mentioning, not wanting or simply wanting it is not going to be enough, but it can lay the foundation in terms of the habits, the patterns, the routines you choose. And Bloodyface has been very deliberate about how he's been preparing. He's also one of the most publicly vocal of the Americas Grandmasters, or Grandmasters as a whole, in terms of his thought process, his ideas on the metagame, and maybe even some of the decks that he wants to bring. So definitely go follow him. Great personality in terms of just meeting him in person, and can't wait to hang out with him at BlizzCon. It's going to be great. And with that, it's the beginning of the end for real. Let's go ahead and recap what we saw today. Bloodyface is our America's champion, and as a brief passing notice, what another season of heartbreak for Purple. Getting to the finish line at the final series, 3-2. It's as close as they can get score-wise. Purple was up 2-0, could almost taste the victory, and then reverse swept under a class that he's put so much trust in the past with the Quest Druid. Just not working out this time.
And not only Purple, but now Gudan as well. How close has he been on how many occasions to these World Championship or Global Finals qualification positions? Didn't quite make it to that one match away, one game away status that he's been at a couple of times before, but still making it to the semi-finals, making it to the final day, being just 2 matches away. And it was the same man, the silent, cool, calm, and collected killer that is Bloodyface, that snatched that victory away at the final hurdle from both of those players.
All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at all the other players that will be joining us in the global finals from the 3 Grandmasters region. As we have from Europe, Casey, that's going to be joining us, representing Complexity in Germany after he took out Hunter Ace. Another great season for Hunter Ace, and even Yarla and Silvername, 2 players that you talked about improving significantly. Yarla, for a couple of years, was also the highest point earner cumulative across years.
Yes.
And that was something that was kind of a story no one really talked about because he's a very humble guy, and obviously because that part, Czech Republic and Eastern Europe in general is just a little bit harder to shine a spotlight compared to some of the other players that are just so magnanimously taking the spotlight like Hunter is.
Yep. If you stack them all up year after year, then I believe Yala does stand atop all of those HCT point rankings for the time they were in play for Europe. And of course, a lot of people would argue that Europe was the toughest region to get it done in. But in the end, it was KC taking it down over Hunter Ace. We kind of saw phase 1 of the Americas finals in Europe, where it was the one-sided stomping, but then we didn't see stage 2 where the comeback happened. The one-sided stomping just proceeded through to the end.
Well, it was pretty similar in Asia Pacific when Tom60229 was able to beat Chonsu 3-2, another player that we've seen at the World Championship in the past. But the story does belong to a former champ, as Tom will be joining us in Anaheim, California for what feels like the bajillionth time at this stage.
And he will, as always, float like a butterfly and sting like a bee all over BlizzCon. Tom is a great guy to have around, very infectious personality. He not only looks like Dan, but he also has just as magnetic a personality as Dan.
He's also almost as good at Dan at Hearthstone. Can't even say that with a straight face.
No.
Shout out to Don, by the way, former caster, now turned player.
Yep.
Always warms my heart when Don performs well, as he's historically always towed the line back and forth. And, of course, Tyler with another top 4 finish, proving why, once again, of course, he's a great player, but why maybe Asia Pacific. He can truly call it home for his family reasons, but also how he's acclimating just nicely, stomping all those people year after year.
Yeah, and also the practice group that you were alluding to, where you said a lot of these players are probably in the same living room right now. That group did just fail to get over the line in terms of the practice for playoffs that they put in, but I think they are also heavily focused on Bucharest coming up and the Masters Tour event. I think that was their primary intention for coming together in that regard and practicing together.
That's right. The Masters Tour Bucharest is coming up this weekend, where $500,000 is on the line, as well as spots up for promotion for the Hearthstone Grandmasters. If you take a look at the current standing graphic in front of you, this is the current top prize earners that are up for promotion, rounded, of course, to the nearest thousandth. I do believe there's some individual digits that we're missing, but the general consensus is that Felkane almost seems like a guaranteed lock here. I'd be very surprised if Felkane gets replaced based off his performance in the Masters Tour Korea, with Zim being a close second.
Yeah, it would take one of the other players on this list with a significant amount of prize money already to then win in Bucharest to be able to overtake Felkane from this position. You can see America's a lot more open because Dog and Gallon, the winner and runner-up and the best performers that we've seen in the Americas region in Masters Tour so far, Dog decided to step away from Hearthstone, and Gallon, by proxy, took his spot as the highest prize earner going into Grandmasters Season 2, which means there is a big gap at the top of this list that an Americas region player can come into Bucharest, put in one big performance, and he could be a Hearthstone Grandmaster for Season 3 in 2020.
Yeah, I believe getting top 16 already puts you just on top of that graphic, and if no one else from Americas is even there, you automatically are through to be a Grandmaster. So Bucharest will be really interesting, if not for the results, but also to see potentially a look into the future of what 2020's Grandmaster season is going to look like, because we do have relegations, at least in Americas. Strifecro and Race no longer with us. Orange and Fino in Europe, and of course Patra and Blood Trail for Asia Pacific.
And also a look into the future as to what our competitive metagame will look like for the duration of this event, because we never know what players are hiding, whether anyone is STSF-B'd in this scenario and really kept stuff back, kept it up their sleeves for Bucharest, and we'll really see what the competitive scene looks like over a huge sample size.
If you look at ladder right now, Secret Paladin is making quite the charge through.
I saw that. That deck looks like trash to me.
I don't understand it, and I won 6
it.
games in a row. I think it's because people don't know what they're playing against right now. Okay. I think that's partially what it is. People are mistiming things, like even their Zephyrus, in order to find what they want to do.
Okay.
They overvalue the Secret Destruction. I'm like, why still have a Mysterious Challenger on board? I just kill you. Really fun stuff. And this weekend is going to be full of it. But that's it from us on the desk here. We're pretty much wrapped up here. Sato, any final thoughts to wrap up the season here, buddy?
Nothing except tune in to Bucharest. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic event. It's the first Masters Tour that I personally am going to get to cover, so I'm hoping we can put on an awesome event for everybody.
Give me a high five, man. It's been real. After 7 weeks and a weekend of playoffs, we have our champions joining us at BlizzCon 19. The only thing missing is you. Make sure to join us at BlizzCon to find who is going to be the 2019 Grandmaster Global Finals Champion. If you missed any part of this broadcast, make sure to check us out. playhearthstone.com/esports. You can watch our pretty faces and analyze the same exact game and call people professional Hearthstone players. Or you can check out the deck list, schedule, VODs, and more. That's it from us, Frodan, Sato, Abar, everyone here in Studio 5, Burbank, California. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time for more Hearthstone action.